like the pharaohs who built the pyramids, Ithra will be the pyramid of Saudi Arabia.
للتعبير عن وطننا وثقافتنا وإبداعاتنا بعقول سعودية وقدرات محلية وتعاون عالمي.
We explore and we tell stories about what we find when we explore. Those to me are the two things that human beings do.
على هالمركز أنه إن شاء الله سيثري الجو الثقافي في المملكة العربية السعودية.
أن نستمع إلى غيرنا وأن نستفيد منهم وأن نخطط نحن لأنفسنا. أعتقد هذا هو الطريق السليم.
Art is an expression of faith, and I feel that this is an eternal message. It's not something that's for the moment.
نعرف أن التحولات الاقتصادية والاجتماعية إذا لم يسندها ويؤسس لها نهضة ثقافية فنية قد تصيب الإنسان بالقلق وممكن أن تهز من كثير من وجوده الواقعي والحياتي.
I can see how Ithra can be a game changer for Saudi artists, but also the broader public to realize potential.
السعادة مقترنة بالتطوع، ولعل التطوع وسيلة هامة جدا جدا في حياة كل واحد منا إلى تعظيم الأثر الخاص به.
Hello everyone, my name is Ali Al-Bahrani. I'm very much excited today to be your moderator. As a science communicator, I've always fascinated by science. Happy to welcome you in our second session in our live series Ithra Talks. Every Saturday of this month, Ithra brings you icons, creatives and experts from around the world to share their knowledge and talk about their journey up close. Here at Ithra, we work to promote science, knowledge, and cross-cultural engagement. We run science festivals, deliver workshops, and train educators through programs such as iSpark, Ithra Incubators, and Ithra STEM programs that engage both students and teachers. Last week, we had our first guest, one of Hollywood's biggest stars, Idris Elba. Today, we are joined by the famous science communicator, the one and only Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, to talk with us about the universe and the wonders of science. For today's session, I would like to remind you that if you have any questions for our guest, please share them through the hashtag Ithra Talks for a chance for them to be featured with us in the section of the questions. Our guest today is the head of Hayden Planetarium in New York. He introduces himself as your personal astrophysicist. You may know him from his books, documentaries, or even his cameos on the Big Bang Theory. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Thank you.
Hello there.
Thank you for that warm introduction. And it was great to see that 2-minute video introducing the Ithra Center to the rest of the world, whoever else is tuned in right now. What a beautiful piece of architecture that is.
Thank you very much. So I would say good morning, but I think it's good morning there. So where are you in the state?
Right now I'm in New York City, and it's Saturday morning in New York City. Yeah.
Well, greetings from Saudi Arabia, especially from Ithra Center, from the Eastern province. Have you visited the region before?
I've never before been to Saudi Arabia. I've been to the UAE, to Dubai 2 times, both as part of a a science festival. And so I felt delighted to be a part of the infusion of science and technology into the region. But that's the only part of the whole Middle East I've ever been to. But I've been there twice. I would go back many more times if the occasions arise.
Nice. Well, consider this as an official invitation, and would love to host you here at Ithra.
Yeah, my great regret is I can't be there in person. That'd be a whole other level. Well, that's very selfish of me, of course, because then I would experience what you are living right now. But I'd be delighted if there's some invitation in the future. I'd be delighted to return.
Yeah, it's the circumstances. But how you are coping with home quarantine?
My kids are older.
That helps.
All of the stories about parents going crazy, stir crazy as we call it, is because the little kids who usually go out to spend all their energy are now in the apartment. And in New York City, people don't live in large spaces. The apartments tend to be small because the city is your home, right? You don't have a backyard because there are parks that you go to, and you don't have a big kitchen because there's a nice restaurant down the corner. So with that, the quarantine, the staying at home, I think has created more stress on some families than others. So I have grown kids, so it's not so much of a problem. For me, I had hoped I'd been a little more creative in these weeks that I've been at home.
I think most of us do.
Yeah. But what happens is you're at home and then you have access to all of these bingeable TV series, on television. So instead of sitting home contemplating new ideas about the universe, you're just ingesting pop culture. And so I don't know if at the end of this we'll all have a more common dialogue because we've all seen the same things on television. But I say this because the history of solitude is one where great discoveries have come out. Isaac Newton he escaped London and Cambridge because of the plague. There was a pandemic at the time, and he lived alone in his childhood home, way out in the countryside. Then he invented calculus and discovered gravity and optics. And so I'm waiting for that to happen to me.
I think, this is a bit a concept of the boredom, because it is like our enemy that you shouldn't be bored, but in reality, boredom has its ups and downs. So
that's the perfect way to say it. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Let's jump in. I think most of us know Neil deGrasse Tyson, the science communicators, the astrophysicist, or sometimes the comedian. But I would like you to take us back in time to Neil the kid. How was it in your childhood, and what inspired you to become an astrophysicist?
Yeah, I've been thinking about the universe since I can remember thinking about anything. It began when I was about 9 years old. I'm an old man now, okay? But when I was about 9, my family took a visit to our local planetarium. And in New York City, where I grew up, you don't have a relationship with the night sky. All right, the buildings are tall, so sight lines will just typically hit a building. And if you look high enough, then back then there was a lot of air pollution. Of course, there's light pollution. So no one really thinks much about the sky. So I go into a planetarium, which is all about the sky. And the lights dim and the stars come out. And I was hooked ever since. In fact, I thought it was a hoax. I said, there's not that many stars in the night sky. Oh. I've seen it with my own eyes. There are 12
so you
stars.
You were a conspiracy theorist before.
So ever since then, I realized just the immensity of it. And not only that, it was how much I realized we didn't know. So in a way, I was basking in our ignorance. How far does the universe go? How old is it? What are those things? What was around before the universe? What will come after? All of these questions started coursing in my head. And then you realize we don't have the answer to many of those questions. And then I wanted to be on that landscape, on that frontier, participating in that arc of discovery.
Wow. I think kids are dreamers and born curious, but tend to lose this touch when they grow up. In your opinion, how we can reignite their curiosity and interest towards science, even adults?
Yeah, something happens. I've thought about it, and I don't have a good answer. Maybe by the time in your early teens, you start thinking different thoughts. You're no longer sort of curious about your environment. Maybe you start becoming curious about other people. Nothing wrong with that in principle, but being curious about life and the world shouldn't come along with a subtraction of being curious about the natural world, right? If you see children in the woods or in the forest or in the backyard, they're turning over rocks, looking at flowers, and each encounter is something fresh and new. And you can see how much time they spend on things that adults just forgot how to pay attention to. So for me, not only just as a human, but as having once been a kid, as most of us were, and then as a parent, I can say your biggest job as an adult is to not squash the curiosity. Because I think it will stay. I'm pretty sure. And I gave this example before. I was in Central Park, which is a large park in Manhattan. And that's where we put all the trees.
We decided no more, not a tree in each neighborhood. That's over. So just to bring them in one place.
That's exactly right. So we put all the trees in one place. But anyhow, there's a lot of fun things to do there, and including there's a theater there. I mean, a stage theater, and they have Shakespeare in the park in the summer. And I just finished attending one with my wife, and we're walking home, and it rained earlier in the day, and there's a puddle at the bottom of one of the pathways, big, juicy, muddy puddle. And there's a woman walking with, I assume her daughter, a young daughter, couldn't have been more than 3 or 4. And the daughter has on the galoshes and the raincoat and the hat. And they're headed straight for the puddle. And I said to myself, please let the child jump in the puddle. You know she wants to jump in the puddle. You know this. And then the child is walking straight for the puddle, and the mother just takes her and brings her around. And I said, what have you done? Okay, yes, there'll be less to clean tonight. But if the child jumps in the puddle, that's an experiment. That's an experiment in fluid dynamics. Okay? There are books on what happens when you splash things. And so that was a way where a parent is not thinking, I want to squash curiosity. The parent is thinking, I don't want to clean this outfit later on. And this is the balance I think you need to strike if you want to keep curiosity stoked in the hearts of children as they become adults.
Right. So you're saying, I think we are not completely a lost cause, the adults. There is hope. Just
some people lost cause, but others...
Just keep jumping in puddles, I think.
just jump in puddles. Thank you. Yes, that's that's the metaphor.
So this is the answer,
for exploring the natural world around you.
Speaking about jumping, so let's jump to Neil, the science communicator. I'm a regular listener to your podcast, Ithra Talks.
Thank you.
And a recent follower of your YouTube channel, and congratulations on hitting 1 million subscribers, by the way.
Thank you.
I noticed there is one segment, which is the cosmic queries, become very popular and engaging. And I gotta say, your way of answering is unique. I know you don't read the questions beforehand, so how do you prepare?
Oh, well, so in Ithra Talks, thanks for the shout out for it. It's a For me, Star Talk is still an ongoing experiment in all the ways we might bring science and the universe in particular to a public that might not otherwise be interested, or maybe they know they're not interested, right? These are two different levels of effort one would need to put in to bring them to the table. And so for me, I study, not academically, just as a person in society, I study pop culture. I see what other people are seeing. I say, oh, that's a popular movie. Let me go see that movie. Oh, that's a best-selling book. Let me find out what's in that book. Or people visited this one place or saw this video or saw this TV series. Let me find out what that's about. So that when the occasion arises to have a conversation, I now have tools. I think of it as like Batman's utility belt. I have an educator's utility belt. And I reach in, so this person knows like sports. Well, let me reach in and pull out something about soccer or about baseball or basketball or hockey. And because there's science, particularly physics, in all of that. And so these become my tools. So it's, I don't see the questions in advance, but that makes sure, so in Star Talk, one of our more favorite kinds of episodes is called Cosmic Queries, as you said. And these are questions. My co-host is a comedian, and they just read me questions that I've not seen before. And if I don't know the answer, I'll say that I don't know, but I might know something about where the question was headed, and I might be able to add some extra stuff that maybe they didn't ask for, but it's something that I do know. And that way, there's still an informative session that can unfold. So I think the trick is to have fun with the content and not think of it as time to have your lesson now and here's the syllabus, pull out your books. That's not how.
Let me bring my blackboard.
I'm sorry, say again?
Let me bring the blackboard and prepare you. It's not like that. So capitalizing on that, for a lot of the audience, they are science communicators themselves and they are active. So if we can extract from this, and you mentioned a couple of points, how can someone be an excellent science communicator in this modern day, in your point of view?
Yes. So not only what I just said, but add to that, consider when you're in school, there may be two kinds of instructors, all right, or professors or teachers. So one of them will face the board, chalkboard. I don't know how many chalkboards are left in the world. The whiteboard, whatever is the thing at the front of them, they'll face it and they'll start talking and writing. Okay. Well, you know what they're doing? They're actually lecturing, and they're not giving any attention at all to whether or not you, the audience, is paying attention. So there are others that might write something on the board and then turn around and then talk to you. And that's a different kind of teacher. This is a teacher who cares how you are thinking. No matter how many people are in the room, they're wondering, might they be confused by this last sentence? Let me read their facial expressions. Are they bored? Are they sitting back, on their devices, not paying attention? These are indicators back to the teacher. And if the teacher is not paying attention to that, you are not communicating. You are just lecturing. And a lecture is, some people will pay attention and others won't. But if you care about actually teaching and communicating, half your effort is actively thinking about what every single person in that audience is also thinking. And because a proper educational an educational session is an exchange, right? It's not just a one-way street. It's, I'm here and I have information, and here are your ways of receiving that information that I've thought about. So I want to shape the key so that it fits the lock. Or another analogy I've heard recently is, I want to find out where you have Velcro. And I'll take the information and I'll stick it to where there's Velcro. And we all have some Velcro. And that way it improves and enhances the likelihood that not only you'll understand what I'm saying, but that you'll retain it. And more important than both of those, you will absorb it so that you take ownership of that new idea.
Nice. And I think that even extends to even the non-educators, science communicators. I mean, individuals who are genuinely interested in science, and they want just to do science communication in their environment, be it in social media or face-to-face. I think this is the key, is how they would perceive the idea. And you should have two ways of communication. Even in social media, you should read their feedback and you should answer their questions. Very well put.
Yeah, in fact, regarding feedback, I became a better educator. When Twitter first came out, people said, you should get a Twitter account. I said, no, I got enough distractions in my day. And plus, when I communicate, it's usually more than one sentence. So no. And they said, oh, you got it. So I said, fine. So I got the account and I started tweeting what sort of everybody else was tweeting. Oh, I'm having a hamburger now. Oh, I'm, crossing the park. Oh, what movie should I see? And it was like, and it took me a year to figure out that there's certain thoughts I have in a day that are scientific, educational, that are perfectly parceled for that medium. And I remembered I was visiting Las Vegas, where, if people don't know, in the United States, it's a place where you go and gamble, right? And one of my books had just come out. And I did the vain thing at the airport. I would go to the bookstore at the airport and see if they're selling my book, right? So I go there, and rather than ask for my book, I said, was there a science section? And they said, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have a science section. And I had a thought in that moment. It was, no, you wouldn't want any critical thinking going on before you go gamble. You know what?
Yeah.
And I
no reason.
I said, that's a tweet. And so I tweeted that, and then people started embracing it. But here's my point. When I read the replies to my tweets and the comments, it's access into the brain of your audience.
Yeah.
It's instantaneous access. And I get to see, are they queuing? What word are they queuing on? Did they enjoy the humor? Did they not get the humor? Did I miscommunicate? And I absorb this, and the next time I'm in front of an audience, I factor this in, and I become a better educator because of it.
Yeah. So you see an audience, you imagine them a little blue birds, like look into it. Going back to Cosmic Queries, what was the strangest question you ever received? Like the one like, what?
Yeah, so I don't think questions are ever strange. It's answers that can be strange. I think if a question comes out of your curiosity, it can't ever be strange because it has an authentic taproot into you wanting to know something that you didn't know before. Now, that being said, I remembered someone once asked me, hey, this is, we've been to the moon and we've been to, we've been in space. They said, will astronauts ever visit the sun? And I thought to myself, how am I going to answer that one? Because the obvious answer is, well, you could do that once because the sun is hot.
Yeah.
You especially know this in the Middle East. The sun is hot. Okay, and it's hot on Earth. Okay, now you want to leave Earth and go closer to the sun. So there's a way to sort of answer it where you're sort of having fun with how crazy the question is, but I found a better way. So one is what you do is you have gentle humor with it, and you say, maybe we'll go to the sun, but it'll be very dangerous. But here's the solution: you visit the sun at night.
I get when you say that the answer might be strange.
Yeah.
It's an example. Okay. Nicely put. Now that was a warm-up, my friend. Are you ready to tackle some hardcore science?
Go for it. Bring it on.
Let's go. Okay. It seems that there's always skepticism around science. Scientists use it for research, and some use it for conspiracy theories. In your opinion, how this can be handled, especially today where we have more access than ever before?
That's a really good and important question, and I don't have a good answer. I have an answer, but it's not a good answer.
Fair enough.
Many of the people who are skeptical of what scientists say or do, these are the same people who, while they're skeptical, they're still talking on their smartphone. Okay? Do you realize how much technology and science and engineering goes into this? And they take it for granted. And I'm telling you, the same methods and tools that are operating on the frontier of scientific discovery, that are advising you on your health, your wealth, your security, that same methods and tools built your cell phone. It built this and programmed it. That's the same thing. It's the same thing that keeps your plane from falling out of the sky. It's the same thing that keeps your cars working. It's the same thing that promotes your health so that we all live twice as long as our ancestors did. So maybe, and I hate saying this, maybe science just needs better advertising. I hate that. It shouldn't need advertising. But if I have to remind you every day that you're alive and comfortable and can communicate and can travel because of the methods and the fruits of the methods and tools of science, technology, engineering, and math, then maybe when a scientist says you have to cover your face during COVID and you have to watch out for climate change, maybe people will listen because they will celebrate what science has given them over all the years that have built civilization itself.
Yeah. Staying in the same topics, I think we as science communicators face this a lot, especially with the conspiracy theorists, be it flat earth vaccination or moon landing hoax. How do you tackle this topic now when you get a question from conspiracy theorists? And Neil, I know you get this question more often, but it seems there is always a new conspiracy every other day.
Yeah, you can't. You need to get the conspiracy of the week.
Yeah, of the night. It's Friday night. There is a conspiracy night.
You know, and I thought we had the shape of the earth down pat.
Settled, like, yeah.
I thought we had that, you know? I didn't think we needed to keep...
Didn't we agree on that? No, that's a no.
So
is it you just like don't answer, or you have like a fixed answer, you give it to what can we do?
Yes, so first, I never have a fixed answer because that implies you're not thinking about the brain wiring of the person who's asking it. And so there's never a fixed, if you have a fixed answer, you might as well be a Wikipedia page, you know. Yeah. Then put your fixed answer there and then go to the beach, okay? You're otherwise not really communicating to the person. So I have a possibly unsatisfying answer for you, and that is, for me, the problem with conspiracy theorists is not them as adults. It's how come they became susceptible to this as adults? What was missing from their education? That's how I think about it. And so maybe it's a hopeless cause to convince a flat earther today because they're really into it. You know, it's very, they have a lot of emotional energy invested in Earth being flat. If you go back and ask, how were you taught science? And my analysis of this is most science classes say, here's this body of knowledge. You're some empty vessel, and let me pour it into you. Now you have this knowledge. And at no time do you learn how the knowledge was obtained, what testing was involved, why we have confidence that it's true. Those other parts of the knowledge are not really elements of the science curriculum. So I think, so then what happens is you learn the science and you learn other things. And then to you, science is just some knowledge that could come and go like anything else that anybody's doing. And I think to myself, if science was all, yes, you need some knowledge, yes. But if it was also taught as a way of querying nature, it's a way of finding out what is objectively true in this world. Mm-hmm. And by the same token, it's a way of finding out what is objectively false. It's tools. So if you don't even know they're tools, you just think this is what you think, but I want to think this because it looks that way. And what I think is my non-expert thought is just as good as your expert knowledge. Then that is a recipe for the dismantling of all of civilization. So it's as when you become an adult, if you've been trained to know what science is and how and why it works, that is you become inoculated. You become protected against people and ideas and thoughts that are just coming out of nowhere with no foundation, and people are organizing their lives around it. So, for me, I want to get to the root cause rather than put bandages on what happens afterwards. And can I have a quick story about a moon denier? Sure. It's quick. I met someone who's the husband of someone I was working with, and he was delighted to meet me. He'd never met an astrophysicist before. And he says, tell me, did we and he was a full-grown man, did we really land on the moon? And I said, well, what accounts for your skepticism? Well, I think, Hollywood could have done that, and it's expensive, and there was pressure for us to get there before the Russians, and so I think it was all faked. And so then I said, what evidence would you need to convince you? And he said, photos of the landing sites, which you can't get from ground-based telescopes. It's too small and the telescopes aren't big enough. So it has to be gotten from space. So that would convince you. He said, yes. So I said, okay, well, before he said that, he said, I'll believe it if you just tell me we landed on the moon, because I trust you. And I said, no, that's not how education works. Yeah. Something is not true because I declare it to be true. That's not how science works. Science is not about authority.
It would be the same as he get the conspiracy theory because someone said so. So you don't want
exactly
to get the
same.
knowledge
It
because
would
someone
work the
said
other way too.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I said, no, we're gonna get to the bottom of this. So I gave him a website. There was a mission to the moon that happened maybe in the 1990s, where a satellite went around the moon and photographed the lunar surface. And you can, in those photos, it went over a few of the Apollo landing sites. And I say, go to this website and look for this mission and you'll see. And so he goes home and then he comes back. And I said, so how did it go? Yes, I saw those photos, yes. But then I noticed that NASA was a sponsor of the website. And NASA is part of the government. And the government could then be faking. Oh, I said, we're done here. I gave you the evidence you wanted.
Yeah.
And now that evidence will not work for you, it tells me you cannot be swayed, and therefore we're wasting each other's time. And that's why I want to go back into his past and give him a utility belt to know how to know what is true and what is not. Yeah. Plus, do you know what it would take to fake a moon landing? Oh my gosh. First, we saw the ship take off, the Saturn V rocket, full of fuel. You can calculate how much fuel that is. How much fuel is it? It's enough fuel to get to the moon and back. So where do you think that ship was going? And the millions of pages of engineering diagrams and blueprints and all. Do you realize, once you realize what it would actually take to fake all of that, it's much easier to just go to the moon. That's easier.
Yeah, I think the missing is the plus that you are saying, because they have this information because someone said so. They don't know this plus, the icon, when you click it and you will see all this the papers, the engineering, and the science behind it. If they know that, as you said before, in their education or in their way of thinking, they might fathom how hard it is, or how possible it is.
And okay. another side of this, which is how remarkable it is that we live in a world where our technology is so advanced that some people are in denial of it. That's just kind of an interesting sociological fact. And so I take it as a compliment that people deny that we went to the moon. There's a joke I just heard recently, which is Hollywood went to Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, the two people to walk on the moon, and said, "Okay, we're gonna fake the moon landing. So do you have any suggestions for this?" And they said, "Yeah, I think the best way to fake it would be to do it on location."
On the moon.
So let's just do it on the moon, and that way we get the best authenticity of the fakery.
Nice one. Okay, staying in space, and let's talk about cosmology, shall we? You have a very special opinion about string theory. So I just want to challenge you here. Isn't it a hypothetical concept like time travel and multiverse? So why you have beef with string theory?
Yeah. So first of all, my wiki page says I used to say I'm a cosmologist. That's not true. I'm just a regular astrophysicist. A cosmologist is a subgroup. There are many there are planetary scientists. There's so it's a sub branch of astrophysics. So while I have broad knowledge of it, I don't have very specific knowledge that people researching in the field would have. But I know enough for most conversations. String theory was an attempt, and still is an attempt, to unify and simplify our understanding of the laws of physics in the universe. And it's actually a brilliant concept. As you pick apart matter and space and energy, what do you find? You find, okay, by the way, the word atom means indivisible in Greek. And they say, well, we have an iron atom. Once you get that, no, we can break that apart. Okay, so it's actually, atoms are misnamed, it turns out. But, okay, so you break apart an atom, and now you have the particles, and then you have the electrons, protons, neutrons, break them apart. Now you have quarks, and you say, this is getting messy. Who thought this up? What's going on? And what string theory does, it beautifully, it imagines matter in the universe and energy as a vibrating string. And the vibrations in the string, depending on what those vibrations are, it will reveal itself to us as one kind of particle or another. So it's not that the universe has all these different particles, it's that the universe just has strings. And if it just has strings vibrating in different ways, then that's how the entire universe then gets revealed to us by these strings. And the strings also allow us to get inside of singularities, like the center of a black hole or the beginning of the universe. It's operating at the fringes of what Einstein's relativity and quantum physics tell us. It really should be called the string hypothesis, because there's no experiments, and the best experiments are kind of out of reach. And we try to reserve the word theory for things that are highly tested.
We can say that the same for the time travel or multiverse. We did not test that yet. It's even those are hypothetical, or we can argue otherwise.
Yeah, except the time travel part, we think we got that one. I mean, we know how to move into the future. You can move faster, and relativity tells you will age more slowly than everybody back on Earth. And so, but moving back in time, that's a little more problematic. There are ways to do it. You have to be able to travel faster than light to make that happen. And your trajectory through space-time has to be sort of well orchestrated. But Hawking had what is called a time travel conjecture, which was maybe the future will tell us that time travel will be impossible because if it is possible, first, where are all the time travelers?
Okay. Yeah. They did not show up at the party.
Where are they? Okay.
Yeah.
1, 2. Suppose you interfered with your parents from meeting each other. Then you would have never been conceived to then grow up and go back in time to prevent them from meeting each other.
Yeah, it's a paradox.
So it is rife with paradoxes. So Hawking thought that maybe we will one day discover a new law of physics that says that backwards time travel is prohibited for those reasons. But it makes for great movies.
Yeah,
really good movies.
Yeah, with movies here, it's time travel is kept as our imagination running for years. It is a very juicy, attractive subject. So, in your opinion, what's your favorite time travel scene, whether in books or on movies?
There's I think the most famous time travel movie is Back to the Future. That was a trilogy, of course, and as is so often the case, the first movie was way better than the other two. But they put a lot of thought into the causes and effects and consequences of time travel. But that doesn't have my favorite time travel scene. My favorite time travel scene was from a movie called Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. It's a campier film, and not as many people saw it, and it's more sort of a cult. It's a cult film at this point.
Hardcore fan.
Here's the time travel scene. So Bill and Ted had gone through time and collected his famous historical figures. So Aristotle and Genghis Khan and Joan of Arc and Abraham Lincoln and Beethoven. And they brought them into the future for their history project. I'm not going to explain the plot because it's too crazy to even believe there's a movie with this plot. So if
you're passionate about it, we're happy to have another live if you want, Neil. This in particular.
Actually, I give a whole public talk called An Astrophysicist Goes to the Movies, where I analyze all of the efforts of movies to do science in them. And so there's science in places you might not have ever thought in the movies. Well, I have one. The Bill and Ted takes is too complicated to explain. Let me give you one from Back to the Future. My favorite time travel moment. Okay. The first time travel scene takes place in the parking lot of a mall. Okay. Mm-hmm. And the name of that mall is Twin Pines Mall. And you see that in a sign at the beginning. Well, in the United States, many malls are built where there used to be farms. Farming is much more efficient today. We're now producing more food on less land with fewer people than ever before. Okay? It's mostly agri-farming, big business farming. But anyhow, so what they tend to do is name these areas after the land. So it turns out there was a Twin Pines farm there 30 years ago, 30 years in the past of the movie. Okay. Marty, the main character, ends up going back in time in that same location. And he goes back in time before there was a mall, and there it is. There's a farm. And right out front of the farmer's home are 2 pine trees, very young pine trees, and they're cordoned off. And the farmer cares about these 2 pine trees. All right. And you say, oh, that must be the Twin Pine name comes from that. Well, Marty is trying to escape because the farmer thinks he's an alien and is chasing after him. And Marty's driving away quickly, accidentally knocks over one of the pine trees, killing it, leaving one pine tree there. And you say, oh my gosh, what does this mean? I mean, you can think that, or you're just distracted by the chase. Later in the movie, they rerun the scene in that parking lot when he's back into the future, and the sign does not say Twin Pines Mall. It says Lone Pine Mall.
No.
That was good. That was good. And the camera doesn't zoom in on it or anything. It doesn't. It's just there.
Just slip it here. Just
slip it in.
Yeah, just slip it in. It's like that. You don't know.
You sprinkle the plot with these tidbits that show that you're really thinking deeply. So for me, that was going back in time, changing the future, returning to the future, and seeing the effect of that change in a very subtle way.
My personal favorite is how the Netflix series Dark tackled time. They presented the concept of past, present, and future happening at the same time. As Einstein once said, the distinction between past, present, and future is just a persistent illusion. So how can we better fathom this concept? I mean, are they happening at the same time?
So if you want to talk about time in that way, it almost doesn't make sense to ask the question, is the past, present, and future happening at the same time? Because that's a very time centric way to think about it. But that's not really how. So there's a story called Slaughterhouse-Five, written by Kurt Vonnegut, that also addresses time as not something that's happening at any one moment, but something that's just always there.
Yeah.
So a fascinating way to think about it is to think about time as a coordinate, as one of your dimensions, right? So I'm in a room, you're in a room, and you could get up and walk across the room. You can jump up, you can go left, right, up, down, top, bottom, and then return. Well, time is also a coordinate. The problem is we are prisoners in the present, forever transitioning from our inaccessible past into our unknowable future. And so if you could step out of your timeline and look back on it, you would see your entire life as a coordinate. And if we had access to that coordinate, you say, I'm going to rejoin my life when I was 10 or 17 or 30 or 50 or my deathbed. So if you ask, well, when were you born or when will you die? That question is very shallow. The question, you're always being born. You're always dying. You're always alive. It's just a matter of where you want to rejoin your timeline in the space-time continuum. So I have no reason to doubt that we couldn't possibly have access to that if you stepped into a higher dimension where you can see the time as just one of the other X, Y, Z, height, width, depth dimensions that one moves in. But what that would mean is you don't control it. It's predetermined. There's your timeline. And so this will always happen to you. It's always happened. It's happening now. It's happening yesterday. It's happened 10 years ago because it's always there. So that's a different way to think about it. You just can't influence it.
Saying that it's always happening, the upcoming season would be, I think, about the multiverse or multi-universe, and some can say everything is happening with different versions in different universes. So my question here, we are running late in time. So my question is how close we are in discovering another universe.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have, believe it or not, we have good reason to think that there could be a multiverse. All right. And it's invoking quantum physics, which was discovered in the 1920s, mostly, a little bit earlier than that, but mostly in the 1920s, which is our understanding of the small atoms, molecules, particles. And you combine that with Einstein's relativity, when the whole universe, at the beginning of the universe, the whole universe was small. All right. In an expanding universe, the universe used to be tiny. well, then maybe the quantum laws also apply to the entire universe when the universe is tiny. And if they do, what just drops out of the equations are multiple universes. And if you have an infinite number, it has been suggested that all combinations of matter, particles, and motion and energy are realized. So if that's the case, there could be a universe out there where I'm in Saudi Arabia, you're in New York City, and I'm interviewing you, and everything else is the same. Okay? Or maybe we are the same. And so people wondered does that mean you can live forever if there's always a universe that has your exact molecular construct? So here's the thing. I'm not convinced that these other copies of me have anything to do with me. Think about it. We've already, in a way, done that experiment. They're called twins. Twins have identical DNA. All right, the genome split, identical DNA, yet they don't have the same thoughts. If you pinch one twin, the other twin doesn't feel that pain. Okay, so I'm not convinced that it's fine. It's somebody else that looks like me, but I am me, and I'm the only me in this universe. Now, how close are we to discovering this? We have no access to these universes. That's unfortunate, but it doesn't mean there might be some other way that they could manifest. All right. Could their gravity leak out and spill into our universe and we feel it as dark matter? Okay. Or could they leave some imprint on our universe at the time it split? And so just because you can't visit it doesn't mean you can't think about how you might test for its existence. So I think it's fun, good for science fiction, of course, but I don't know how soon we are from concluding that there's definitely other multiverses, but I don't want to stop people's brain power from thinking about that problem.
Nice. Good. Okay, I think it's time let's take a detour from questions to even more questions. Let's play a quick game of Would You Rather. But before we jump into that, I would like to remind the audience to share your opinions, your questions, and even pictures of this live talks in your homes. And you can post them all in the hashtag Ithra Talks. You can go now to Ithra Talks and put a questions or take a photo. We can check them out later. So, Neil, you have 10 seconds to answer each question. Are you ready?
I'll do it in 5.
Okay. Okay. So, clock is on. Okay. Would you rather be able to safely visit the sun or the moon?
The sun. It's a far more interesting place than the moon.
Yeah, and it's on the vest, so I think it's the obvious. It's an obvious.
I would need a flame-proof spacesuit.
Yeah. No, I just want to compliment your vest that you are wearing now. The sun is smiling, and yeah, it says a lot. Okay. Would you rather live in Star Trek universe or Star Wars universe?
I'm a Star Trek guy because they at least pretend to care about the laws of physics, unlike Star Wars. But both of those worlds.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry. Both of those worlds have like evil forces in them, and I'd rather make my own universe that has no such evil in it at all.
Okay, the utopian universe. Would you rather talk to animals or be able to speak every language known to humans?
The animals. The animals have much wider diversity of life experience than humans ever have or ever will. I want to know what a worm is thinking. I want to know what the ant is doing. Why? What are you going to do with that leaf that you're carrying? I want to know these things. I want to know, there's a whale thinking calculus. Their brain is this big. That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Other animals.
Okay. Would you rather have supervision
and maybe plants have thoughts too.
Yeah.
What's the oak tree thinking?
Yeah. Maybe rocks have some thoughts.
Yeah. I want to understand because everything in the world has a slightly different point of view on the world. And I think the greater is the range of points of view that you know and understand, the higher is your capacity for compassion in this world. Something the world needs, could benefit from a lot more of.
Okay, your 5 seconds is up. Would you rather have would you have super vision or super hearing?
Oh, definitely I'd rather have super taste. I already have supervision. It's called telescopes. Okay. And I have super hearing because I have as a scientist, I could make stuff that'll enhance my sight and my hearing. But I don't know how to make a machine that makes me taste things better. So I'd rather, if I'm going to enhance my senses, it's going to be my taste.
Nice. Okay. Would you rather have tea or coffee? And this is a trick question.
I'd rather have a hot chocolate, a hot cocoa with whipped cream.
This is not how the games work, Neil. You are giving.
I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. But in most places,
your answer's not there.
In most places that serve tea and coffee, they also serve hot chocolate. I'm a hot chocolate guy. But okay, if I'm gonna choose tea or coffee, I'd choose tea.
Nice, nicely put. I'm a tea fan.
Coffee, I don't have a relationship with caffeine, so I don't think about that. But I just like the taste of hot chocolate. And tea is simpler for me, and I like iced tea with lemon. That's a very American thing to do. Freaks out the British. You did what? you didn't put milk in it? You chilled it? You put lemon in it? What?
And some of our traditional teas, we put sometimes saffron or some roses with it. So we get some flavors in our teas also. Okay,
yes, and so you get to taste a lot of the plant kingdom with teas.
Yeah, that would be handy if you have a super taste ability.
Yes.
Okay. Would you rather choose pie or towel? Towel.
Ooh, that's getting geeky. I'm old school, and I would stick with pie. It's a curious fact because what is tau? Tau equals 2 pi. All right?
Exactly.
And tau even exists only because if you do science and engineering, most occasions, not all, most occasions where you encounter pi, it's 2 pi. In an equation, where if pi comes out, it's usually there's a 2 with it, and so phi would tau would simplify that, but pi worked hard its whole life to get to where it is, and these newcomers. I'm old school. I'm sticking with pi.
Okay, last one. Would you rather be Batman or Iron Man?
Oh, in a cage match, I think Iron Man wins. Now, so I'd be Iron Man. Iron Man is smarter and more technologically savvy than Batman. Batman has the benefit of having this company that hires engineers to build his stuff. But I want to be the person who builds the stuff. And Iron Man builds all his own things. So I would be Iron Man. However, that's in a cage match where they get to use it. If it's just bare knuckles fighting, Batman wins because Batman is trained in martial arts and in fighting techniques. Iron Man needs his iron suit in order to have all the power. So I'd be Batman on the street, but Iron Man in full uniform.
Nice. Speaking about superheroes, in your opinion, which superhero can live best in Saudi Arabia?
Wow, I hadn't thought. Okay, so so it's dry, desert climate. They're not camels. What are you asking me?
No. They can live everywhere. And
I got it for you. Here,
pretty standard.
Forget the superheroes. You know who would welcome the desert is the Wicked Witch of the West, because remember, a bucket of water melted her. She's apparently water soluble. So if you put her in the desert, then she's not going to stumble on water. So she'll be fine. And the Tin Man would work in the desert too, because he can't get rusty, but plus he needs oil to stay
Okay,
let's flexible.
Let's jump to the next. Okay. Superheroes, music, movies, novels. You touch upon that. Even memes. They are all a part of the pop culture. How can we add science to the mix? And make it short because we'll go to the questions of the audience.
I think there's already a lot of science-based memes. I think, but scientists would be or science enthusiasts have to be the driving force behind that. You can't expect non-scientists to create a science meme any more than you'd expect a scientist to create a music meme. So if more scientists had more of a tap hold in pop culture, they would know this is a way to get it out there and to celebrate it all the more. So that's yes, it would be good, and we need more of it, and science, you have to engage.
You have a huge fan here in the region, following you, seeing your cosmos, and even your interviews. I'm amazed in the last week how many persons reach out to me and ask me questions to ask you. So,
is that my book on your stack right there?
Oh! Who said so? Yeah.
No, I ask only because. Wait, just to be clear, I ask only because that book was my first of the books I've written. I've written several. That book, which came out a couple of years ago, was the first of my books to be translated into Arabic.
Nice.
That exists in Arabic.
And this is actually is one of our colleagues here. She brought the book, and I did the same as the Back to the Future. I just slide it in, just I'll put it there just for you to see. Like I don't know who brought that book. Okay. Yeah. Which book you have? Because these are my college book. I graduated a decade before, so I always bring my books, university books, with me. But this one is just for you especially. Okay, for
Excellent.
all active science communicators now who they have YouTube channels or podcasts or even pages on Facebook or websites, what advice would you give them in their career? And you can start with hi in Arabic. It's marhaba.
Marhaba. Yeah. So my advice is to first keep doing what you're doing. I think this is my opinion here. There might be other ways, but I think you should do a lot of writing. Okay? Writing has a way, if you post it and it's there, then it has a way of sort of lasting forever. It's easy. It doesn't take up much space on a disk. It transports well. The interesting thing about a book is that it doesn't require batteries. You don't have to plug it in. We have books from 500 years ago in libraries. Will your disk that's in your computer today be readable in 500 years? I don't think so. So first, if you write, then your ideas can be forever. But more important, when you write, you think about what words are doing when they are put together, not only in a phrase, but also as a sentence, as a paragraph, and as a longer communication. If you write and you think hard about it, about how to best have someone receive those words, what it does is it helps shape your vocabulary. It helps shape the organization of your thoughts when it comes time to speak to people. There are whole sentences that come out of my mouth. They say, hey, he's good on the spot. No, it's because I've written that down before. I've thought about those words. I've chosen the combination of words that has that lands in your ear and in your mind in that way instead of another way, just to enhance the chances that it will have impact upon you as an educator. So it's not just how many YouTube videos can you post. I think it's, have you refined what that medium of communication is, because you're using words, using language. And if the culture is infused in there, then you've got a ready-made set of phrases, vocabulary that you can pick and choose for the moment. And you don't have to wonder whether the sentence came out okay, because you already thought about it. So I think communication is not only your face in front of a camera, it's pen and page.
Very nice. Thank you very much. Enough with my questions. Now we will hear from the audience, from our social media hashtag. But first, we will be joined by Faris Bukhamsin for a live question. Faris is an advocate of science, and he's a science communicator and the co-founder of The Scientific Saudi. Hello, Faris.
Hello. Hello.
Hi, Faris.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Nice. Okay, it's always a pleasure to meet you, Dr. Neil. So my question is very simple and clear. Now we are seeing that science is playing a big role in the economic development, and especially through the fourth industrial revolution. So my concern is what we should do as science communicator to be ready for that movement, and how can we be contributing and pushing it further. Thank you.
That's an excellent and important question. So sometimes if I can't get someone excited about science, which is hard for me to believe that someone is not excited by science, because I've been excited my whole life. But if there's someone that just you can't reach, my last resort is to say that innovation in science, technology, engineering, and math are the very engines of tomorrow's economy, tomorrow's economic growth. They're the engines that drive civilization. They're the engines that provide wealth, health, security. Do you care about these things? Then you need to care about science. And so that's kind of my last ditch position that I put on the table. And if you don't care about your health, all right. But no one would say no to that question. So I would advise educators to see if people can get excited about the fun science you do and talk about and display. And if not, say the future of civilization depends on this. And I think that might have a chance of getting through.
Very nice. Thank you very much. Thank you, Faris, for your question.
Thank you.
Now we'll jump to the audience questions, and I have some here from the hashtag. We'll start. There is a double down questions from Lujain Ali and Ghaida Saud. They asked, as PhD student, how you can tackle all the tasks that you have, be it in research and science communication, and being on TV and doing shows, and you have the family and you have your private life. So how we can juggle between these?
Yeah, the accurate word is juggle. There is no balance to that life. People say, how do you balance the home life and research? No, it is never in balance. It is always out of balance. And at any given moment, I'm addressing the whatever has the greatest need in that moment. Is it something at home? Something with the kids? Is it something in the research? So no, it is a life out of balance. And I don't want to defend that as good, but I will say life out of balance forces you to be creative and innovative about how to get things done. And because you are encountering combinations of needs that you haven't before. And you say, well, what do I need to do now? Oh, here is a solution to that. And so what I find is that this out of balance forces me to be more inventive about how I use my time. And so, yeah, don't do this expecting everything to just be smooth. If you wanted things to go smooth, you can get a job where you're from 9 to 5 and come home and then you're done. All right. Okay.
Nice.
Then that's smooth. But otherwise, be ready for it to occupy most of your waking hours.
Very nice. Another question from Abdurrahman Jamal. I'm Abdurrahman from Ethiopia, a grade 9 student. And his question is, what would happen if a person somehow exceeds traveling through space and reaching at a point beyond the radius of the universe? What's there?
Oh, there's a sign that says the end.
There is a continuation to it. He meant that, like, a point where the Big Bang hasn't delivered its signature yet.
Yes, so that's okay. So what we say when we speak of as the edge of the universe is just our horizon. We don't know how much beyond that horizon the universe extends. Any more than in the early days, a ship would go out into the ocean and it would have its horizon, all right? And you're in the center of your own horizon. As you move, you take your horizon with you, and you don't know what's beyond that unless you travel there. But as you travel there, you move your horizon with you, okay? Eventually, they found that land showed up on the other side, something different. Okay, that's it. So then they go to the land and they settle or whatever. Okay, in our universe, if we move out, we will carry our horizon with us. It is possible that if we move in one direction, that we will no longer see the evidence of the Big Bang in the direction we're traveling. You know what that would mean? It would mean there's no longer any matter there to give us a signal that's 14 billion years old. It would mean the universe has nothing more to tell us in that direction. It would mean we found the edge of the universe. So in the future, if we could just pick up our operations and just move, that would be kind of an interesting experiment. It would be the ship looking to see where its horizon hit land. And if that happens, it's basically the edge of the ocean. The same analogy applies. So we don't know how big that is.
Okay. There is 2 questions about black holes, so I'll put them together, from Maryam and Zainab. Maryam al-Gallaf, she said, what can we observe if the black hole stops spinning? And Zainab's question, is it true that we can do artificial black holes? Can we make them?
You don't want to make a black hole? That would be bad. Avoid black holes.
Is it possible?
It may be possible to make a very, very tiny black hole. The good thing about very tiny black holes is that they evaporate quickly, so they don't live very long. It's possible for a black hole to evaporate. Stephen Hawking showed this. But no, we don't have the capacity to make a big black hole that would then eat the Earth. I think it was Kurt Vonnegut, the author, who said, this is the last sentence that will ever be spoken in civilization. It's one scientist speaking to the other saying, let's try this experiment the other way. And that's the end of it. They successfully made a black hole. So about the spinning, I think I understand the question. A black hole just sitting in space, it doesn't reveal itself in any obvious way unless you see distortions of light paths from objects behind it. But almost all black holes we know about, there's revolving matter around it, okay? And we call it an accretion disk because matter gets accreted, and there it is, and it spirals down. When that spirals down, it glows just before it goes in to the black hole. And you can see this. And so that's how, so we say we found a black hole. What we mean is we found the signature of the light emitted by the swirling material going down into the black hole. Without that swirling material, it would be very hard to find all the black holes in the universe. And we suspect some black holes don't have swirling material. So next time you go traveling through space, watch out for this.
Okay, thanks for the question. I'm coupling questions for the time. So we have Faiza. She said, if we somehow get visited by aliens and we as human beings get together and nominated you to speak to them, how you will describe Earth or humanity in one sentence? The other question, so that I'll give you the time. Do you see, is it possible to be in touch with extraterrestrial creatures like in a decades or more?
So 2 parts there. So one is the search for life in the universe is broader than just intelligent aliens and flying saucers. Is there bacteria? Are there mats of bacteria on another planet? Is there plant life? So the biologist is interested in any life at all, as am I. So a next level question is there what we call intelligent life out there that has technologies and things that you can identify as clearly what you'd have if you were smart? And I don't know. We haven't searched much of the galaxy for this. The great colleague of mine, Jill Tarter, who studies the search for life in the universe, said, when asked, how much of the universe have we searched for intelligent life? She said, it's like going to the ocean and taking a cup and scooping up a cup of water and say, the ocean has no whales in it based on this cup or no fishes. So that's how much of the ocean of the universe we have searched. So we can't say there is no intelligent life. We said we haven't searched enough to make that statement. Now, if one came to visit and I were elected to greet them, I don't want to be like Star Trek where they send down the person with the red shirt and then they get vaporized in a moment. There could be a way to get rid of me. I don't know. Neil, you go first. Check them out. But I would say my sentence to them would be, give us a chance, comma. There is hope for us, I think. And because they would come to Earth and they would see the harm we do to each other. They would see the strife in the world. They would see us struggling. They would see, and they would wonder whether we had any future at all. Yeah. And I'd want them to know that we have come through quite a bit in this world. And for me, when I look at what we've come through, that's what gives me hope. And I'd want to tell the alien to have the same hope in us that we do in us for what our future can be. That'd be my first sentence. Then I'd ask them, show me your periodic table of elements and your equations. And then the rest
have you received the Voyager golden record yet or not?
I know, yeah. Have you heard it?
Have you seen it went by or something?
Is that why you came here?
Yeah, speaking about what's happened on Earth and all the, let's say, the micro challenges. Like here's one of the questions from Mr. Fuad Darman. He said, all of the macro challenges like pandemics, nuclear wars, or economics crisis, climate change, which challenge is the biggest facing humanity right now?
It's definitely climate change. Definitely. Because, no, we're not going to go extinct from this, but it'll completely redraw the map of the world. Most of the great cities of the world were founded on the water's edge, on a river, on a lake, on the ocean, which enabled transportation and commerce and irrigation, if it's a river. And so if in climate change, as you begin melting the land-based water in Greenland primarily and in Iceland, in Antarctica and Greenland, that's where you have most of your land-based ice. If that melts and goes back into the ocean, the water levels rise as they already have been, and you basically flood all of your coastal cities. You have to pick up cities and move them inland, many kilometers to avoid this. And these cities took hundreds of years to build, and in some cases 1,000 years. So it'll completely redefine modern civilization. And so that is an existential threat on what we have spent so much time building. Now, the COVID virus, it comes to Earth, and it doesn't care about your skin color or your religion or where you live or what your rituals, it doesn't care. It just cares that you are a human and it affects you. And we can't coordinate to fight that. So we should think of the COVID virus as like a hostile alien that just came in. What are we going to do now? We are humans. Are we going to stick up for each other and try to fight this in a coordinated way? Or are we going to fight among ourselves about the thing that wants to then kill us? So that's a problem. That's a problem. Yeah. Carl Sagan is famous for saying air molecules don't carry passports. Neither do water molecules. You pollute the air here, it's spread around the world. Same with the water. Future solutions require world cooperation. And if we don't have that, kiss civilization goodbye.
Yeah. Nicely put. There is a couple of questions about your books and if you have your favorite books in sci-fi or in astrology. So we'll keep that we can put a list on Twitter on the hashtag later on. We can communicate like a list. We can post it for people there. There is a couple of questions about dark matter. This is the last question to talk about. So what's your thought on dark matter and how can we better discover it more?
Yeah, so dark matter is misnamed. It's got the wrong name. It's really dark gravity. About 85% of all the gravity in the universe that is manifested has no known source. It's not planets, stars, black holes, gas clouds, comets. It is not made of what we describe as ordinary matter. We don't know. It's the longest unsolved problem in modern astrophysics. Yeah. It's been around since the 1930s. And so we don't know. We don't know what it is. We have experiments trying to find it, to make maps of where it is. We think it might be a new kind of particle that just doesn't interact with us using light. It just has gravity. There's no light. If you had a dark matter thing in front of you, you would... It would be completely transparent to you. Okay.
Yeah.
So what I can say is the next generation of people who are becoming scientists, this is one of the unsolved problems in modern science, in modern astrophysics. And I would be delighted to learn that there are people out there who see this, who participate in this event, who say, I want to become a scientist because that's the problem I want to solve. And that's how we progress. If one generation can't solve it, it waits for the next generation. And that's where the curiosity, because what is a scientist? Like I say, it's a child who has never lost their curiosity into adulthood.
Yeah.
This is my message for all of you.
Very nice. Thank you very much. I think with this, we have reached the end of our engaging session with you, Neil. Before we conclude, I would like just to give you an opportunity to share with us your final remarks with the whole audience within 1 minute, please.
Within 1 minute. You had mentioned books just a moment ago. Often I'm asked what books are on my shelf, and people tend to be surprised when I give them the list. So I didn't know you'd read that, or how come you're reading this? Most of the books I read actively are books that have very different cultural, political, ideological ideas in them than from what I currently embrace. They're ways for me to see how others in the world are thinking, how others in the world value people, places, things, ideas. And the only way I grow is to learn what other people are thinking. If I just read things that already support what I already know or believe, then I'm not growing. I'm just ossifying. Great word. To ossify is to harden into a shell. And so if I were to offer some parting bits of wisdom, it's open up your table to people who have all manner of thoughts and ideas. They may challenge your ideas. You would challenge their ideas. Ideally, some new idea comes out that's better than both of those. And that's how civilization advances. And so it means staying open-minded, but don't have your mind be so open that your brains spill out and you forget how to think. Keep them in your skull.
From all of us here at Ithra, Neil, it was an honor hosting you today. Thank you very much for your contribution and definitely inspiration. We hope to host once again here at Ithra after post-pandemic. For all our audience, be sure to join Ithra YouTube channel for next Saturday at 4 p.m. KSA time for another session of Ithra Talks, where we will be joined by the leading international architect Shatil Thorson, co-founder of Snohetta, and Fatma Rashid, the lead of design and head advisory groups at Ithra, for a compelling discussion of architecture. This week, we will launch a scientific riddle challenge, and we dare you to solve it. To know more about the riddle and other Ithra programs, visit our website, ithra.com, or through social media at Ithra. I would like to thank you again for tuning in, and always remember to wonder about the universe, stay curious, and keep learning. Stay safe, everybody.
And keep looking up.
Keep looking up. Thank you, Neil.
Mm-hmm.